The radio crackled to life in my basement workshop, spitting out static and fragments of old jazz. I'd been fixing this 1940s Philco for 3 weeks now, and frankly, it was more reliable than my marriage. My name's Nick Harlan, and if you're wondering why a 37-year-old man spends his evenings talking to broken electronics instead of his wife, well, you're about to find out. Nick! Gilly's voice pierced through the floorboards like a rusty nail. Where's the bank statement for the inheritance account? Inheritance account. Of course. Ever since her father passed away 6 months ago and left her $5 million, my dear wife had gone from being a small-town fitness instructor to something of a financial expert. Or so she believed. I climbed the creaky stairs, wiping grease off my hands. Gilly stood in our kitchen, all yoga pants and fake tan, rifling through our mail with the intensity of a DEA agent searching for contraband. Which statement? I asked, though I already knew. The one I'd found in the recycling bin yesterday. The one showing a $90,000 transfer to an account I'd never seen before. The Chase account. I need to check something. She didn't look at me. Hadn't really looked at me in months, come to think of it. Try your purse. That's where you keep everything important these days. She shot me a glare that could freeze hell. Don't be sarcastic, Nick. It doesn't suit you. Neither does being married to a stranger, but here we are. That's when she finally looked at me. Really looked. And what I saw in her eyes wasn't love, wasn't even irritation. It was calculation. Cold mathematical assessment, like she was measuring me for a coffin. We need to talk, she said. Famous last words. We sat at our kitchen table, the same one where we'd planned our wedding, discussed buying this house, dreamed about kids we'd never have. Now it felt like a negotiation table at a hostile takeover. I want a divorce, Gilly announced, as casually as ordering coffee. I blinked. Not because I was surprised, I'd seen this coming for weeks, but because of how easily she said it, like she'd been practicing. Okay, I said. Any particular reason, or are we going with irreconcilable differences? She seemed taken aback by my calm response. You're not upset? Should I be? You've been checking out of this marriage since you cashed that inheritance check. I'm just surprised you waited this long to make it official. I'll wire you your half of the house, she said quickly. I don't want this to get messy. Messy. Right. Because 90 grand disappearing into thin air wasn't messy at all. Sure thing, Gilly. Clean and simple. Just how you like it. That night, I packed my essentials and moved into the back room of my electronics repair shop downtown. It wasn't much. A fold-out couch, a mini fridge, and enough vintage radios to outfit a museum. But it was mine. And more importantly, it had excellent Wi-Fi. See, Gilly had made one crucial mistake. She'd forgotten that her loving husband had spent 15 years in IT before opening his little repair shop. She'd forgotten that I'd set up all her devices, all her accounts, all her passwords. She'd forgotten that I knew exactly how to find out what she was really up to. It took me exactly 47 minutes to crack her email password. She'd changed it from our anniversary date to something called Carter Lane 2024. Carter Lane. How romantic. The deleted emails folder was a gold mine. 3 months of correspondence between my wife and this Carter character. The early messages were flirty, the middle ones were explicit, and the recent ones were all business. The inheritance is secure, one read. Nick doesn't suspect anything. Once the divorce is final, we can move forward with the plan. Another gem. He's so pathetic sitting in that basement with his broken radios. He'll probably thank me for leaving him. But the real prize was buried in a message from 2 weeks ago. Phoebe says the charity account is ready. We can start moving larger amounts once you're legally separated. Phoebe, Gilly's younger sister. The accountant who'd always hated me. Apparently, she was part of whatever scheme my loving wife had cooked up. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. So Gilly wanted a clean break, did she? She wanted simple and mess-free? Too bad for her. I'd never been much good at keeping things tidy. The next morning, I called my buddy Leon. We'd known each other since high school, back when he was the guy who could get you beer and I was the guy who could hack the school's computer system to change your grades. These days, Leon ran security for a local nightclub, which meant he knew everyone's business and had access to some very interesting equipment. "You sound like you're planning something stupid," Leon said after I'd explained the situation. "Not stupid, strategic. Same thing in your case. What do you need? GPS tracker, something small, reliable, and completely untraceable." "Jesus, Nick, you're not going to take her out?" "Number. I'm going to do something far worse. I'm going to humiliate her." Leon laughed. "Now that I can get behind. Give me 2 hours." While I waited for Leon, I did some research on Carter Lane. Turns out he was quite the entrepreneur. He'd been arrested twice for fraud, once for embezzlement, and had somehow managed to reinvent himself as a charity event coordinator here in town. He organized fundraisers for the local country club, ran silent auctions, managed donation drives. All very respectable, very above board, all very perfect for laundering money. The GPS tracker was smaller than a matchbox and magnetic. Leon helped me attach it to the underside of Gilly's Tesla while she was inside getting her weekly massage at that fancy spa downtown. "You know this is probably illegal," Leon said as we walked away. "So is embezzlement. So is adultery in some states. I figure we're all even." For 3 days, I tracked Gilly's movements, home to gym, to spa, to Carter's apartment, to some office building downtown. Regular as clockwork. But on Thursday, something interesting happened. She drove to Phoebe's apartment and stayed for 4 hours. That's when my phone rang. "Nick?" "It's Phoebe." Her voice was shaky, uncertain. "I think we should talk." "About what?" "About Gilly. About what she's doing. About what I've been helping her do." We met at a coffee shop across town. Phoebe looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hands trembling as she stirred her latte. She'd always been the smart sister, the responsible one. Seeing her like this was almost enough to make me feel sorry for her. Almost. "She's going to destroy everything," Phoebe said without preamble. "The inheritance, the family name, probably both our lives. Start from the beginning." She inhaled deeply, her voice trembling. "When Dad passed away, he left everything to Gilly. $5 million, the house in Vermont, and some investments. I got nothing, not a single penny. That must have hurt. It destroyed me. 20 years I took care of him after Mom passed away. 20 years managing his finances, handling his medical appointments, listening to his constant complaints. And Gilly gets everything, because she's the one who's attractive, the one with the charm." I waited. There was more coming. "So I decided to take what should have been mine anyway. I've been siphoning money from her accounts for months, small amounts at first, then bigger ones. She never noticed because she was too busy playing house with Carter." "How much?" "About 800,000 so far." I nearly choked on my coffee. 800,000? Where the hell is it? That's the problem. Carter convinced me to put it in these charity accounts he manages. Said it would be safer there, harder to trace. But now I think he's been moving it somewhere else. Somewhere I can't access. The pieces were falling into place. Carter wasn't just sleeping with my wife. He was playing both sisters, stealing from both of them. "There's something else," Phoebe continued. "Something about the inheritance you need to know." She pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. Inside were photocopies of legal documents, bank statements, and what looked like a will. Dad's will had a clause. If Gilly gets divorced within the first 2 years, she forfeits the entire inheritance. It goes to charity. I stared at the papers. Does she know this? No. Dad's lawyer was supposed to tell her, but he had a heart attack the week after the funeral. I've been handling all the paperwork since then. So if she divorces me, She loses everything. $5 million gone. I leaned back in my chair, mind racing. This was better than I'd hoped. Much better. What do you want from me, Phoebe? Help me get my money back from Carter. Help me expose what he's been doing. And maybe we can make sure Gilly gets what she deserves. I extended my hand across the table. Partners? She shook it. Partners. The plan we hatched was beautiful in its simplicity. Carter was playing both sisters, so we'd use that against him. Phoebe would tell Gilly that Carter was cheating on her, which was true, since he was also sleeping with Phoebe. Meanwhile, I'd gather evidence of the money laundering and present it to Gilly at exactly the right moment. The goal wasn't just revenge, it was complete destruction. We started with the country club. Carter's charity events were held there twice a month, fancy affairs where the local elite could feel good about themselves while writing tax-deductible checks. Phoebe had access to all the financial records, and what we found was damning. Donations were coming in, but only about 60% was reaching the intended charities. The rest was being funneled through a series of shell accounts, ultimately ending up in Carter's personal finances. He'd been running this scam for over 2 years. This is enough to put him away for a decade, Phoebe said, as we reviewed the evidence. Prison's too good for him. I want him humiliated first. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Gilly's gym had security cameras everywhere, including the private yoga studio where she and Carter held their afternoon sessions. The cameras were supposed to be off during private sessions, but a little creative hacking on my part fixed that problem. What I recorded wasn't pornographic, but it was damning. Carter and Gilly going at it like teenagers, completely oblivious to the camera. But more importantly, I caught them talking afterward. Planning. Discussing how they'd split the inheritance money, where they'd go after the divorce, how they'd handle the Phoebe problem. She's getting suspicious, Carter said on the recording. We might need to cut her loose sooner than planned. What about the money she's been moving? Gilly asked. What money? As far as anyone knows, those charity accounts never existed. They were planning to frame Phoebe for embezzlement. Pin the whole scheme on her while they disappeared with the money. I showed the recording to Phoebe. She went pale. We need to move faster, she said. Agreed. Time for Phase 2. Phase 2 involved a little direct confrontation. I waited for Carter at the gym, timing my arrival for when I knew he'd be finishing his workout. The men's sauna was empty except for him, which was perfect. Carter Lane, I said, stepping into the steam. We need to talk. He looked up, startled. He was a good-looking guy, I had to admit, the kind of smooth operator who probably charmed his way out of those fraud charges. You're Nick, right? Gilly's husband? Ex-husband, apparently, though that might change soon. I sat down across from him close enough to see the sweat beading on his forehead. Some of it might have been from the heat. See, I've been doing some research on you, Carter. Very interesting background. Fraud, embezzlement, and now you're running charity scams. Quite the resume. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. $800,000 funneled through fake charity accounts. My sister-in-law's been very helpful in documenting everything. His face went white. Phoebe told you? Phoebe told me lots of things, like how you've been playing both sisters, like how you're planning to frame her for your crimes, like how you think you're going to ride off into the sunset with my wife and her inheritance money. Carter stood up, trying to look intimidating. You don't know what you're dealing with, Nick. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone, showed him the screen. I know about the shell accounts. I know about the fake charities. I know about the money laundering. And I know that in about 30 seconds, I'm going to send all of this evidence to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. You're bluffing. Am I? I hit send. Oops. Carter lunged at me, but I was ready. The taser I'd borrowed from Leon caught him right in the chest, and he went down hard, twitching and cursing. Consider that a preview, I said, standing over him. Stay away from my wife. Stay away from her sister. and stay the hell away from me. I left him there, naked and humiliated in the steam. It felt good. But I was just getting started. The real fireworks began that weekend at the country club's annual charity gala. The whole town would be there, all the people who'd been whispering about my marriage, all the friends who'd chosen sides, all the social climbers who lived for this kind of drama. Gilly showed up with Carter, both looking impeccable. She was breathtaking in a black evening gown, playing the role of the sorrowful daughter who had turned her inheritance into philanthropic endeavors. Carter moved through the crowd like a seasoned politician, shaking hands and receiving praise for his effective fundraising efforts. They had no idea what was coming. Phoebe and I had spent the week preparing. We'd contacted the real charities that were supposed to benefit from Carter's events. We'd gathered testimonials from people who donated money they thought was going to help sick children and homeless veterans. We'd compiled a complete financial breakdown showing exactly where the money had really gone, and we'd prepared a little multimedia presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, stepping up to the microphone during the silent auction portion of the evening, "I have a special announcement to make." The room quieted. Gilly looked confused. Carter looked nervous. "My name is Nick Harlan, and I'm here to talk to you about charity, real charity. Not the fake kind that's been stealing your money for the past 2 years. The lights dimmed, and the presentation began. Bank records, email exchanges, recorded conversations, all of it projected on the big screen for everyone to see. The room erupted in gasps and angry murmurs as the scope of Carter's fraud became clear. But the best part was the final slide, a photo of Carter and Gilly in the yoga studio, with the audio of their conversation about framing Phoebe playing over the speakers. Gilly screamed, actually screamed, like someone had set her on fire. She rushed toward the stage, but Phoebe intercepted her. "You want to know the best part, sister?" Phoebe said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Dad's will had a clause. If you get divorced, you lose everything. Every penny goes to charity." Real charity. You could have heard a pin drop. That's when Carter made his move. He tried to run, pushing through the crowd toward the exit. But Leon was waiting for him there, along with 2 FBI agents who'd received my earlier email and decided to crash the party. "Carter Lane," one of them said, "you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and embezzlement." As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at Gilly with pure hatred. "This is your fault, you stupid bastard. You and your pathetic husband." Gilly collapsed into a chair, sobbing. The crowd stared at her with a mixture of pity and disgust. Her social media empire, her reputation, her future, all of it crashing down in real time. But I wasn't done yet. "There's one more thing," I announced to the room. "Since my wife seems to be having some financial difficulties, I've decided to help her out. I'm withdrawing my petition for divorce." Gilly looked up at me, hope flickering in her eyes. "Which means," I continued, "she gets to keep her inheritance, all $5 million of it. Of course, she'll need to pay back the $800,000 that was stolen from the charity accounts. And there will probably be some legal fees, and some hefty fines from the IRS. But hey, at least she won't be completely broke." The hope faded from her eyes as she understood the true meaning of my words. She would keep the inheritance, but it would be consumed by legal fees and restitution payments. She'd be fortunate if she ended up with enough to rent a small apartment. "You bastard," she whispered. "No, Gilly. I'm your husband. For better or worse, remember?" The crowd began to disperse, everyone eager to spread the gossip to anyone who hadn't been there to witness it firsthand. Gilly sat alone at her table, mascara running down her cheeks, the ruins of her perfect life scattered around her like confetti. Phoebe approached me as I was leaving. "What about my money?" she asked. "What money?" "As far as I know, you were just trying to help expose your brother-in-law's crimes. Very civic-minded of you." She smiled. "The FBI will recover most of it from Carter's accounts. I might even get a reward for being a whistleblower. Might even." We shook hands again, but this time it felt different. like we were saying goodbye to the people we used to be. I drove home that night, to my real home, the one I'd shared with Gilly for 8 years. She was already there, sitting on the front steps with a suitcase beside her. "The locks are changed," she said without looking up. "I know. I changed them. This is my house. Actually, it's our house. Community property, remember? And since we're still married..." I shrugged. She stood up, fury replacing the despair in her eyes. "You think you've won? You think this is over? I think you made your choice when you decided to cheat on me with a con man. I think you made your choice when you decided to steal from charities. I think you made your choice when you decided I was pathetic and disposable. I loved you once. No, you didn't. You loved the idea of me. The steady, reliable husband who'd fix your computer and do your taxes and never ask too many questions. But you never loved me." She picked up her suitcase. "Where am I supposed to go?" "I hear there's a nice motel out by the highway. They take credit cards." As she walked away, I called after her. "Oh, Gilly? You might want to check your social media accounts. I think your followers are going to have some questions about those charity donations you've been promoting." She didn't turn around, but I saw her shoulders shake. Whether from rage or tears, I couldn't tell. I went inside, poured myself a drink, and sat down at my kitchen table. The same table where she'd asked for a divorce just 2 weeks ago. It felt different now, smaller somehow, but also more mine. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Leon. "Saw the news coverage. You magnificent bastard. Drinks tomorrow?" I smiled and typed back, "Make it 2. I'm buying." Outside, I could hear Gilly's car starting up, the engine fading as she drove away into whatever life she'd built for herself. I didn't watch her go. I was too busy planning what to do with my newly reclaimed house. Maybe I'd turn the basement into a proper workshop. Maybe I'd get that dog I'd always wanted. Maybe I'd finally fix that old Philco radio and listen to some jazz. After all, I had all the time in the world now.